realness.
We live in a world where discipline, hard work, and aligning your thoughts and things with actions lead to success. It's just that simple. Hey, we are going to have you, client ABC, to have increased your supply diversity efforts by 50% within the next year. And we set out to do that. We set our action plan. We get everything done that we need to get done on time, within budget, every I dotted, every T crossed, and it happens. Say, God, you're funny. Because you're constantly providing that real content that is such a part of authentic realness that's necessary in order for that light bulb to come on and for people to understand that next time you say, oh, that's easier said than done, check yourself. Because it is just as easy, if not easier, to do it as it is to say it, if you're willing to own it, to be accountable, to be responsible, and to do what you have to do. And the reality of life, newsflash, everything in life you're not going to want to do. Everything in life is not going to feel good. Everything in life is not going to be a courtesy to you where it's going to be comfortable and it's going to be, oh, I'm in my nice, amazing, wonderful loft and I'm just in a great place. And, oh, today it's just been spectacular. There are going to be those times like, look, I'm dirt tired. I want to go to bed. I don't want to be on this podcast or anything else. But because I committed to doing it, I'm going to do it. And it's going to be amazing. The end. Point blank.
That's it.
Realness.
All right, Fanny, you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Theo, you there?
I'm here.
For introducing authentic realness. Realness.
Hello, hello. And we are back, everyone, for another episode of the Authentic Realness Podcast, ARP.
Realness.
And this is Aaron R. Plush. We're going to jump right in tonight. Tonight's topic is one where I got some feedback from a listener, which I really appreciate you listening, Terrell, and really being one of those people who was able to talk to me, brother, about the specifics of all of the episodes. That made me feel wonderful that you were really, really listening. And what you said, my friend, when you talked about there's an opportunity here where I can do a double click and take it a step further down in talking about some of those nuances that are specific to Aaron R. Plush, consultant and independent contractor. Things such as my usage of time, the 5-minute rule, the if it's not on my calendar, it does not happen, and all the other components that make me specifically who I am. Love it. And in that, you have defined our topic for the night. Theo, you there, brother?
I'm here.
Fabby is away, and Theo and I are going to rock and roll with just the two of us. No authentic realness experts tonight, so none of our R folks. We're going back to the same format as episode number 1, that it's just Theo and I. And Theo, very quickly, when you think about Aaron R. Plush, me, the consultant and independent contractor specifically. So none of the fraternity stuff, none of the step show stuff, none of the soliloquies or dissertations of you knowing me, just me and our Plush consultant and independent contractor. When you think about those things that you specifically know, because you've certainly been allowed the opportunity to kind of see behind the veil, to be behind the curtain of how I really work, what are some of those things that immediately come to mind for you and me specifically as a consultant?
The immediate thing that comes to mind is, if you don't take you seriously, how can you expect me to take you seriously?
Absolutely.
I think that theme.
Tell me more.
I think that theme just goes through and through when it comes to consultation, because at the end of the day,
Okay.
you have to be, if you have a consultation and you get homework back, it ain't for you to do the homework. It's for the person, person to go take it back and give you something to work with. So if you're not taking yourself seriously, how can you take you seriously? Because you can't work off of nothing. And when you don't take yourself seriously, you don't believe in yourself, you're pretty much serving a platter. You're telling somebody to figure it out themselves. But it's you gotta have something.
Okay. So what I'm hearing is you're saying that as a consultant, I'm very client centric.
Oh, most definitely.
That my expectation is that this is a journey where we're working together.
Mm-hmm.
That you, the client, you define what it is that your problem statement or problem item is. And then in turn, you're looking for me to be that expert that comes in as a consultant to work with you to help you get to that place of solution.
That's it.
Perfect.
That's it.
I would agree with that wholeheartedly. And in that, that's a great segue for us to move into some of these very specific items that relate to me as a consultant. So let's talk about these alarms. So certainly you all know there was that episode at midstream, an alarm went off. So I am one of these people who've been finally won over. I am an iPhone guy. Like, I use my iPhone in every way possible. And one of the biggest ways that I use it is alarms. And I set alarms for all of my meetings. So all meetings that I have across the course of the day, there is an alarm set. What that does is that takes away one more thing for me to have to think about. If I know that I have a meeting at 8:30, 7 a.m., 10 p.m., 3 a.m., doesn't matter. There's an alarm set. Because I know that there's an alarm set, I now don't have to worry about, oh my God, I'm going to miss that meeting. Oh my God, I'm going to be late. Because certainly you all know I've already put out there my 5-minute rule that for me, if we have a meeting and 5 minutes in and I'm not on or my client isn't on, my expectation is that both of us are going to hang up and just say, hey, something must have come up. And in turn, we're going to just have to reschedule and meet some other time. So to be one who looks to hold my clients to that, then certainly we all know I have to hold myself to that. So those alarms help me tremendously to be able to make sure that I'm staying on time. The other things that the alarms do is, I'm telling you, I don't care how intelligent you would like to believe that you are. I don't care how you might think that your IQ falls when it comes to other folks. Here's a reality moment for all of us. As humans, we all have limited mental capacities. I have learned that I try to keep my mental capacity and brain power open for processing because I'm a creative. A large part of what I do is I spend a lot of my time with my brain being almost like a machine, that it's constantly churning out very difficult, complex concepts. It's always trying to learn something new. So the last thing that I'm going to do is to crowd that space with trivial times throughout the course of the day. So I have aligned my calendar along with the alarms. So it's a two-prong approach. If it's not on my calendar, it's not happening. So let's start there. That everything in my life, and this is both personal and professional, it all goes on my calendar. And also understand, for those who are like, oh my God, that has to be a boring life. No, it's really not. Because I even have on my calendar, do nothing. Like literally, there's time blocked out on my calendar that says, do nothing. Senseless time for me to do whatever I want to do with it, but it's do nothing. But most of my time is accounted for, with the exception of Sunday, which of course is my God, family, me, friends, frat, and whomever else that might be near and dear to me. All of those folks get time on Sunday. But every other day, 24/6, I'm available. So that combination of the calendar and the alarms helps to keep me sane. So none of those things have to be added to my mental Rolodex. Those things are all within those items that God has created and allowed for us to use. Now that's what works for me. Certainly, once this episode broadcasts, I'd love to hear and see in the notes some of the things that work for you all as listeners. But I can definitely tell you that's what works for me. Some of the other things that are very specific to me, and you all hear it episode and episode out. I don't use fillers. I don't use your ums. I don't use your, you know what I'm saying? I don't use any of those that are very distracting things that we've added to our language that we don't have to have. Now, has it taken me a while to get here? Absolutely. And did I have to be very intentional and deliberate to not use those words? Yes. But one of the things that I don't have to argue with anybody about, just certain things about self that you must know. I'm an effective communicator. And newsflash, for those that happen not to know, the fact that I don't use fillers is one of the most significant parts of me being an effective communicator. The other component to that is I'm very present. While I am recording this podcast right now, this is the only place where my mind is. I'm not thinking about what I need to do later tonight. I'm not even thinking about what I need to do tomorrow, nor do I care about what I did earlier today. The only thing that I'm thinking about right now is this podcast, this episode going well, and you all getting the information that I know that we all need. All of those things that I just described is a part of the A&R Plush recipe for effective communication. Am I saying that it's going to be that easy for you? Absolutely not. Why? Because all 8 billion of us that are living, we all are different. But I can definitely tell you all that that is a start. Anything that you would say, Theo, as you've known me for years, you know the direct nature of how I communicate. Any observations or things that you would say specific to me as a communicator?
Just the biggest thing, try not to be petty. The biggest thing is, I would just say, don't waste my time, and I won't waste your time. I know
Fair.
it sounds so raw, but at the end of the day, I mean, that's the one thing I will always say. Like, it goes back to that initial comment. Like, if you don't take yourself seriously,
yeah,
how do you expect me to take you seriously? And it really comes, like, that really ties into your breakdown of alarms and taking that guesswork out. You know where you need to be at such and such time. If it has slipped your mind because you're laser focused in what you're doing, you get that reminder 15 minutes before. In my experience working with you, Your alarm may say you got 15 minutes, but in your mind, you click on and say you got 13 minutes because you're always going to be there
Correct.
before the strike.
Correct.
So
Correct.
it's a level of professionalism, and it's a level of this is not a game. This is serious business. You know, a lot of times it's like I'm just gonna do this on the side and it's lackadaisical. But nah, when you want something done with class and with being spectacular at the end, you got to take yourself serious.
I totally agree with that, brother. And I tell you, a significant part of what you're seeing, it goes back to that spirit of excellence.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, this is beyond professional. This is about discipline. This is about respect. This is about brand. And a significant part of the Aaron R. Plush consultant brand is exactly what we're describing right now. Like, these are the items that separate me. These are the things that are unique to me that I do exceptionally well.
Mm-hmm.
And in turn, I know I do them well. And it's always my desire to ensure that I'm always getting better.
Mm-hmm.
I tell you all, I spend a lot of time reading and looking at various posts on LinkedIn, but I saw one today. It was very intriguing. And the guy's name is Jasmine Alec.
Okay.
And he's a storyteller for Fortune 500 brands. And I loved something that he posted today. And it talked about writing to everyone builds a following. Writing to a small group builds a niche. Writing on a specific topic builds authority. Writing to solve a specific problem builds clientele. What is your reason for writing? And when I tell you this hit me like a Mack truck, I was ran over, I was laid out, etc., because I totally agree. And that was a large part of this exact post is what led to this particular episode. Because I want this episode to write to solve a problem, because I'm attempting to build clientele through this podcast. Well, what I'm doing right now is I'm telling you, what you see is what you get. What you've been hearing on every episode of this Authentic Realness podcast is the essence of what you will get from Aaron R. Plush, consultant and independent contractor. Now, this is the creativity of God, to be able to marry this, to blend this where I'm able to have dialogue. I'm able to be who I am. I'm able to bring in various people to be my guests. I'm able to have the authentic realness experts. But in all of that, it all comes back to one place. The 8 services that Aaron R. Plush, consultant and independent contractor, provides. And as a reminder, they are as follows: program and project management, contingent labor and workforce management, management consulting, chief of staff services, operations management, supplier diversity management, motivational speaking, and voiceover and voice services. Those are the 8 services that ARP provides. What's stopping you from calling, emailing, smoke signaling right now that, hey, I have all one combination of those problems that I need help solving? Let me reach out to Plush, get this consultation. I'm going to come with what I know I need. We're going to talk through this, and we are going to get to success. And we're going to get to success because of the guaranteed methods that I've adopted every time. Not once, not on occasion, not most times, But every time, because I understand with certainty that excellence is not a single act, it's a habit. And habits are things that you do all the time. No fillers for me is a habit. I don't use them ever. Oh, I'm relaxing with my family. Who cares? There's no code switching for me. I talk like this all the time. And from a lot of people, it's like, well, wait, you're from Orangeburg, South Carolina. This has to be a facade. This has to be a voice that you have grown. This is how I have talked my entire life. For as long as I've known me, this has been my speaking tone. This has been my speaking voice. Now, what has happened over time is there's been maturity. There's been growth. There's been development. There has been that exercise of understanding words and what they mean and being exposed to new words. And I do like using older words that people don't know the meaning of, and they have to go to today. Now, what does that mean? And certainly, I have no problem in telling somebody what a word means. I was having a conversation earlier, and we were talking about the term lucrative, and the person was using ludicrous as the basis of like, no, totally different words. Meanings don't even minutely align. But at the same time, didn't do it from a place of, oh my God, you're an idiot. But it was a place that they really just didn't know. And certainly it led to a conversation, which led to now there's been growth and development. It goes back to that whole, yes, you can pronounce the word niche or niche. It's up to you. Do what you do. But a large part of that has to do with regions of the country and where you reside and where your background is. But I had a call today with someone and they used a nice, lovely niche. And immediately I'm like, hey, we're on the same page here, person. I loved it. So to bring this episode back in, we're talking about, here are the components of Aaron R. Plush, consultant and independent contractor. Here's what makes me who I am. Here's how I use these core foundational components of who I am for you as my client in the services that I offer. Now, in that deal, certainly I know you have all kinds of questions for me. For everybody who doesn't know, if this is your first time listening, welcome. We're a crazy bunch in these parts, but we have fun. There's no scripting here. I have no idea what Theo is about to ask me. All we do in preparation is we talk about the topic. We talk about some of the things that we want to make sure that we cover. And then that's it. Everything else here is free flowing. What do you have for me, Theo, as you think about this concept that we're talking about here?
You know, the question that comes to mind is when a person is 5 minutes late to a meeting without any regard or without any conversation or text to
look at you with your regard. Look at you with no S on that regard. Look at you, brother. I love it. But go ahead.
So when a person does that and they don't make you privy prior, what does that send off to you as a consultant?
Well, ultimately, I don't want to ever go off on the deep end. Mm-hmm. And I don't make any assumptions. My immediate first take is, are you okay? So I am going to reach out and I'm just going to send a quick message saying, hey, I was on for 5 minutes. You didn't join. Are you okay? That's number one, because I'm concerned about everybody. And I'm definitely concerned about my clients. Now, once you respond and you're like, oh, I got tied up or something came up, there's no bad blood. I mean, because ultimately you're paying me. Like, I am your consultant. You're my boss. Yet, as you being my boss, there has to be some mutual respect for our time, because the 5-minute rule applies to me as well. That if I don't show up, then the client hangs up and they have the understanding that we're just going to reschedule.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I likely would be in a very extreme situation, or death would be the only reasons why I would not have sent you a text message or called you or said, hey, something's come up, just because I'm respectful of people's times. Now, has a calendar reminder or an alarm failed me before? Absolutely. There's that time where I was supposed to set the alarm for 3:30 p.m. and I set it for 3:30 a.m. Oh, well. Plush happens not to be perfect. But the 5-minute rule provided an opportunity for nobody to panic. It's like, oh, he's not on. There must be something up. We're just going to reschedule. And typically my clients, if I'm not somewhere, they're just like, oh, God, something's definitely wrong. And then I'm like, oh, no, nothing's wrong. I set the alarm for 3:30 a.m. rather than 3:30 p.m. Because the harsh reality is, because I do work with folks globally, there are times that I have 3:30 a.m. meetings. And it's nothing for me to wake up at 3 a.m., prepare, do what I got to do, and jump on the call and take my behind back to sleep.
Facts.
And I've been doing that in my professional career for a very long time. So it makes it easy for me to do. To answer your question in very certain terms, nothing. I'm not petty like that. I'm petty in a lot of ways, but I'm not like, oh my God, you can no longer be my client because you were late to meetings. It is what it is. Now, if we get into a habit and a pattern that you're always late, then I'm just going to ask you, hey, let's make sure we're scheduling times that are going to work for you.
No, most definitely. But
Yeah.
But the dope thing that I will say, just looking at our whole conversation right now this evening, even though those are your standards that you set for yourself and how you deal with family, friends, business, anybody. But the thing about it is, we spoke about this in a previous past episode where we was just talking about your gifting, and the things that are inside of you, purposing things of that. The things that people will look at as quirks are good life lessons that they can apply to their own life if they pay attention.
Absolutely.
Like it's not something that's just, oh, this is how you deal with me. These are my 10 rules of engagement. No, it's not even a thing of that nature. But if you really look at it and you really embrace the experience and embrace the guidance, those are strong life lessons. Because when you're in a board meeting or you public speaking, nobody want to hear that makes you sound redundant, or that you're trying to figure out what you're saying, or you really don't know what you're talking about. Yeah. Or even just being on time for meetings. Like, you never want to be the one that's always late with a bunch of excuses. After a while, those excuses are going to run out. But I don't want to deal with you. So they're great life lessons. It's dope. It's dope.
Yeah. And two things that I take away from what you just said. And the key thing is you can make them custom to you.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you don't have to adopt them and adapt them exactly the way for me. Mm-hmm. The great thing is God doesn't create clones.
For sure.
You look at identical twins and you think about the fact that most identical twins are so different when it comes to personalities. So it's like insane. Like, wait, how can two people look so much alike, but you're so different? Mm-hmm. How is that possible? Well, that's because God doesn't create clones. So if God doesn't create clones, what would make anybody think that they could just take how I go about doing things and make it custom for them, or not making it custom for themselves and just doing it identically to me? The key is customizing it, making it clear that this is for you. And this comes from trial and error, folks. But you got to be willing to acknowledge that there is a problem. Because what I found is, until you recognize that there are some places that you need to be working on, you're not going to do it. Like, oh, it's not a big of a deal. Whatever. Everybody says, oh, so I'm going to continue doing it. Oh, okay. Good luck with that. Have fun. But the other thing I tell you is, typically we do use fillers because it's an indicator of not being prepared.
Yep.
It's an indicator of searching and seeking for the words that we're looking for. One of the things that really works, just take a pause. You don't say anything. And pauses are not as awkward as people think, because what it does, one, it allows you to collect your thoughts, but it also allows your listeners to collect their thoughts in processing what you're saying.
That's it. I agree.
And one of my former employees brought it to mind. She's like, "Oh my God, you've mastered the art of pausing." I was like, "I have." Because I want to make sure that what I'm saying is truly resonating with you. I can't do that if I'm talking over myself. Like, again, it goes back to that limited mental capacity. There's only but so much that you can process at a given time. And most of us are half listening anyway. And one of the things that I found in this day and age is because I am a texter who, I'm not sending you 15 texts back to back. I'm going to say everything I need to say in one text. But what I've found is most people don't read like that. That people skim. And I'm quick to call you like, yo, just go back to the text. It's already, oh, I didn't see that. Well, maybe you need to stop skimming and you need to read. And that whole concept of it's the foundational things that we got very early, like reading, writing, arithmetic, like those things are real. And you take those things from grade school to the boardroom. And those of us who've mastered those foundational things, success comes pretty easy for us because that's what the basis of everything else is. So I tell you, when you think back to those days of spelling classes, you think back to those days of reading comprehension and growing up in small town USA, Orangeburg, South Carolina, having teachers at the public school. Oh my God, you went to a public school? I did. And the public school where the teachers loved me, the teachers made sure that I learned, and they made sure that I knew that they cared about me learning. That's the foundation of my life right now.
It's good stuff.
What else do you have for me, sir?
Another question that comes to mind would definitely be when, and it's from a client standpoint.
Sure.
What are the first three things that you're looking for in that initial conversation?
It's real simple. And so let's go to make sure we're real clear. So I'm going back before the consultation and I'm going to the pre-consultation. You reach out to me and you say, "Hey, Plush, I have this problem. I'd like to work with you." The three things that I'm listening for, number one, is clarity of what it is that you're looking for. That's number one. Like, what is it that you need assistance with? Two is to immediately process, is that something that I offer and that's within my wheelhouse? And then the third one is immediately identifying which one or several of my services aligns to what you need, which allows me to make the decision of moving forward to a consultation or not. For example, somebody reached out to me recently about a website. Now, those of you who know me, yeah, I do have a technical background. Yeah, I did websites early in my career. I have zero desire to do anybody's website. Hell, I ain't do my own. Now, what I was able to do was I was able to connect this person with the team that has done both my current website for me as consultant and independent contractor, and we're done with my website for A&R Plush, the brand. We haven't launched it yet because there's some foundational things that I need to get done in 2023 before the full launch. And we work amazingly together. But that's just an example where I was able to very quickly ascertain, oh no, absolutely not. You are not a client for me because I'm not doing anybody's website. So great question, brother. As we wrap up this particular episode, I'd say thank you, Terrell, for making me do this double click, for bringing to my attention that I had an opportunity to make a parallel between those very nuanced things that are a part of Aaron R. Plush, the person, and how those things lead to Aaron R. Plush, the consultant and independent contractor, and how I have a perfect opportunity to ensure that I'm giving the practical components and elements of all of these things that makes me who I am as a consultant. So amazing idea and concept for an episode. I hope you all as the listeners are able to take one step further in your understanding of who I am as a consultant, as well as who I am as a person, which gets you one step closer to making that phone call, gets you one step closer to going to my website and filling out the information there, and or sending me an email and saying, hey, I'd like to go ahead and schedule that initial conversation with you to see if we can move forward to scheduling a consultation. Excellent, excellent, excellent episode. Any closing thoughts, Theo, from you before we go to the throne and pray to our Heavenly Father?
Two things. Go back to my initial statement in regards to.
Oh boy, the S came back.
in regard to what was initially talking, I would say, if you want someone to take you seriously, make sure you take yourself seriously.
Absolutely.
And then one thing that I will,
and that's beyond this. That's
sure.
life.
For sure.
Like, make sure you're doing that throughout your life.
Sure. I definitely agree. And the other thing, one thing I will describe you in how you approach things is, in everything you do it with love. When it comes to consulting, you have a love and passion and purpose in it. So everything that you're going to do, you're going to see it through with effectiveness. You're going to be solid from day one to day whatever. To the end, it's going to be spectacular from step one all the way to the last step.
Yeah. And I'm going to be firm and I'm going to be stern. And there are going to be times you want to throw something at me and all those type things. Yet, it is always governed in love. And thank you, Theo, because I actually forgot about this thought, but this is a thought that we must say in this episode. One of the most significant things that I've learned in my journey is to always take a human first approach. And the human first approach is what I take with my clientele. I look at my clients first as humans, not as a client, not as a paycheck, not as an opportunity for Aaron R. Plush, the consultant independent contractor, say that I've worked with person ABC or XYZ. But I always approach life with looking at humans as humans first. And when you take that, that's what allows me to not go off of the deep end on somebody not being on a call. For me to understand that you're not going to have all the answers of what you're looking for before you call me or reach out. Because if that's the case, then what do you need me for? Like, my job as consultant is to help you get there. Yep. And in turn, I have learned that a human first approach will allow you to meet people where they are, and it turns into a meaningful situation for all of us. Because what we have to think about is, you think about all of the grief and disasters and horrible things that everyone in the world is experiencing, because we all can agree that all 8 billion of us, we all are going through something. For sure. So in turn, we want to make sure that we're taking that human first approach. If somebody just had a traumatic life experience, the last thing they want to do is talk about a consultation or talk about the work that we have for this week. So that human first approach will tell me, even though you're on the call, hey, you're not here. Let's meet next week when you're in a better place. Or vice versa. If I'm not in a good place, I'd expect somebody to tell me, hey, Plush, although I know this is a paid session, because I care about you, the person, more than I do you, the consultant, go take care of you. Let's meet next week. And that goes back to the fact that A human first approach allows you to cherish life. And when you cherish life, it allows you to cherish the experiences that we're doing in the business realm. And with that, that's a perfect place to go to the throne. So let's pray. Heavenly Father God, we come to you here, God, in 2023. Just thank you for the opportunity to be among the living. God, we thank you for allowing us to have had such a powerful episode tonight where we've talked specifically about the nuances that comes along with A&R Plush, the consultant and independent contractor. God, thank you for the vision that you've given me to launch myself as a consultant. And in turn, God, I would ask that you would touch all of my clients, current and or future, in a tremendous way, that they all might come with the spirit of harmony, a spirit of success, a spirit of excellence, and one where, God, a problem might be being solved, and it be solved in a way that's more tremendous than any of us could ever imagine before stepping into the business relationship. So God, right now, Fabi was not on tonight. Certainly we would ask, God, that you would cover and protect her and her family, that you would be with Theo and his family, that you would be with me and my family, and God, that you would just cover all of our listeners and all of the world. Because as I mentioned earlier in this episode, that we all are going through something. Some things known, some things stated to others, some things unknown, some things unstated. But God, what we are certain of is that you know all about everything. And God, we would ask that you would allow us to cast all of our cares upon you, and that you might make us whole in only the way that you can. So God, we love you. We adore you. We magnify you. We love you. And these and all other blessings, God, we ask in the glorious and magnificent name of your Son, Jesus. Amen.
Amen.
Wow. What an episode. Thank you, God, for it. Thank you for allowing us to be here in 2023. And we are excited about what you are doing, what you have done, and what you will do. So that's that whole past, present, and future. And just excited about what's happening in the realm of ARP. I want to remind all of the listeners, new and old, that the best part of ARP is each and every one of you. And in closing, in our oh so familiar way, until next time, let us all be spectacular together.